Hi there. In this portion of our material, we're gonna move from immigration into acculturation. And acculturation is the process by which people migrate, learn a culture, become part of that culture, or not part of that culture, but how they fit in. All right, the act of fitting in. Now, the study of acculturation is very difficult because there's so many reasons people immigrate. And one real broad thing is some people immigrate because the place they were at is so bad they had to get out. Some immigrate because the place that they're moving to is so awesome they want the benefits. Okay, so it's pretty clear that the attitudes are going to be quite different right from day one. Some immigrate for various reasons, as we saw in the previous presentation. Some immigrate for job reasons. Some immigrate for family reasons. Some immigrate with uh, investment visas. There's so many different reasons that people immigrate. And then at the same time, you're going to find that some groups of immigrants are welcomed and some group of immigrants are basically, shunned. So the experience is going to be different in so many different ways. You find that immigrants move to radically different neighborhoods. They move from different cultures, they move to different cultures, different neighborhoods. Again, and much of that is a product of do they come in with money? Cultures vary in how much their heritage culture is similar to this new host culture, different personalities, expectations, etc. So, despite the fact that there is these many factors making the immigration experience absolutely unique to each immigrant, but yet at the same time, some patterns do in fact emerge. And here is a real generic pattern. It's kind of like a catch-all pattern. The idea is when people immigrate to a new culture, they experience this honeymoon period where everything is new and exciting and flashy and everything is so cool. And then they're going to have some crisis, some kind of crisis. Often, what happens is, immigrants come in, let's say they come in with a college degree, and they come in and they find out that their English isn't so great, and people treat them like children. I'm like, oh, wow, okay. And so they're being treated as though they're an uneducated child, when in fact they are, in fact, well educated. And so that, that some other crisis like this, I don't, could be just many things. But then what often happens after some period of depression, for a lack of a better word, what you'll find here is that these new immigrants are going to pick up, the skill sets necessary. They're going to figure out exactly how things work. And so now they're going to sort of come back and smooth. Now, again, this is some kind of a generic image, and does not describe the acculturative experience of all immigrants, because people that immigrate to Japan, what they tend to have is they tend to have a honeymoon period. They go into this crisis or culture shock period, and they never leave. It stays at a low, flat level forever, and that's simply because of well, I mean, primarily because the attitudes towards immigrants in Japan is actually quite negative, and it does not matter how long you live there, you will never be Japanese. All right, if you have immigrated, you will never truly become. So this U shape is kind of common, but it most certainly is not everything. Okay, and so here's a complex graph that kind of talks about acculturation as a process. And I mean, you can see all the different factors that are going to influence the experience itself. Where do you come from? Where are you settling? How much contact have you had with this culture before you get there? Your personality, your language skills, your openness to new experiences, as we say, the amount of contact, how many opportunities you have. And I mean, these are all just part of some larger process of acculturation. One of the predictors of acculturative success, for a lack of a better word, is this cultural distance. That is, Canadian immigrants moving to America got it pretty easy, okay? And so you find that, say, for example, Chinese immigrants to New Zealand have a very hard time, but Chinese immigrants to Singapore, not so bad. Okay. And so it's just kind of this distance between. And one of the major components of cultural distance is language. And clearly, and I mean, when it comes to the acculturative story of almost every immigrant, the number one piece of the pie or largest part of the story is language. And so you can see these language families as an example. And so what you have here is TOEFL scores. TOEFL is the test of English as a foreign language. And so international students that want to study in America often have to prove that they are competent in English before they're allowed to study. Okay. And the TOEFL was the tradition. There's been some recent tests that have, you know, supplanted this one. But TOEFL was the granddaddy of these tests. And you can see what happens is um, international students from Germany, Sweden, and Netherlands, I had to stop on that one, um, who all share with English that they are in the Teutonic, they're Indo-European Teutonic languages. And so those are the ones that are most similar to English, and therefore their TOEFL score is highest. And therefore, the immigrants from Germany, Sweden, and Netherlands have the easiest time in this language way. Another one is cultural fit. That is, in the United States, being extroverted is a kind of a cognitively healthy way. That is, some of the best life success can be predicted with extroversion. Yet many immigrants, especially immigrants from Asia, come in quite introverted, and so just like that, they kind of have a hurdle to get over that they don't express themselves in a culture where if you don't express yourself, nobody else is going to stand up for you. So clearly, it's something that needs to be worked on. Well, the acculturation experience has been sort of summarized in some kind of a ways. The Vancouver Index of Acculturation, which asks a variety of questions, as you can see here, but ultimately what these questions are getting at is attitudes. What is your attitude towards your heritage culture where you came from? What is your attitude towards your host culture that you're moving to? And put the two together. And so you can see here that we've got these four different strategies of acculturation based on your attitudes from your heritage and your host culture: integration, separation, assimilation, marginalization. And what's going to happen is that these four strategies often are shared in common. That is, immigrants from a particular nation often share one of these four as a whole, but yet at the same time, the acculturation strategies of, let's say, a family immigrates, and the acculturation strategy used by the parents may not be the same as the acculturation strategy by the children, even though they came at the same time. Okay. Well, it turns out that some of these are considered healthy. Integration is considered to be the healthiest of them all. The idea is that you're going to, you know, embrace both your new culture and the culture you come from, right? These other ones, however, have less psychologically healthy predicted outcomes. So the most common is integration, and it's healthy, like we say, because you now have resources. You can take draw from social support and resources from your heritage culture, social support and resources from your host culture. It's the best of both worlds. Marginalization isn't really a strategy. It's just sort of it's a personality trait. It doesn't work well. It sometimes happens, and again, it's if the host culture has a very negative attitude toward that particular group of immigrants, then marginalization will often occur, and it's got some cases little to do with the immigrant him or herself and the behaviors that they exhibit. So assimilation and separation are somewhere in the middle. Assimilation is it's interesting. I mean, they become American, but when they become American, they lose their original identity. And then Man. And then separation, they never truly become American. They just sort of live in America all out in their own little world. Okay. So different strategies, different outcomes. But what you find is that on top of the fact that there's going to be all of these different factors, each culture has their own basic model or understanding of how immigration should work. And America's traditional idea is the idea of a melting pot. That in America, it's this idea that really encourages assimilation. That is, you immigrants come in, they become American. That is, they kind of lose what they were, but when they become American, they change what it means to be American. Okay? So it's kind of like what does it mean to be American is changing year after year as new immigrants are becoming American and modifying it. But then again, as we say, these new immigrants are going to lose their heritage culture in the process. Okay? So it's a way. Canada strives for more of a salad bowl model, and in a salad bowl model, I mean, as you add new ingredients to a salad, like a crouton, the salad becomes better. The salad is better the more ingredients you put on it, but at the same time, you can still remove the crouton and it retains its original form. And that's the idea. As new immigrants come in, Canada will change and become better, but yet at the same time, those individual immigrants are still individual people, not some integrated part of the whole.